Academy. In today's lecture, we will going to understand about nutrigenomics for disease prevention and better health. So before going into the detail of the topic, let us first understand or have clarity of the term nutrigenomics. So would you believe if I told you that 99.9% of all human DNAs are identical? You may wonder that if that is the case, then why all humans look different from each other? Why do all humans have different personalities, like different food? Believe it or not, the 0.1% of DNA that varies between the individual is responsible for all the differences there are. Many of the differences are in the form of SNPs, that is single nucleotide polymorphism, which are essentially mutation in the human DNA. These SNPs can have no effect on human health, or they may cause risk in the diseases depending upon their location within the genome. So, nucleotide is the branch of science is the branch of science that aims to understand that how food, nutrients and compound found in the food impact the gene behavior. It is also known as nutritional genomics. So it is a science, or you can say it is a study, that how our food and how the food and its compound interact with our gene to influence the health outcome. It also explores how individual genetic variation affect the way we respond to different types of nutrients, and how our diet can modify the gene expression to prevent or to manage the diseases. So, by the better understanding these nutrient genes interactions, it is hoped that experts will find a perfect solution to prevent certain diseases and provide personalized nutrition advice based on the individual's genetic profile. Okay, so it makes the work easier for the expert to make a particular diet for a particular person having a particular diseases, and how to manage that diseases. So depending upon the nutritional, or you can say requirement, or depending upon the different types of nutrition, or you can say different kinds of individual based on, sorry, the individual genetic profile, it makes easier for the expert to manage particular disease, to prevent particular diseases, and to modify the nutrients needed by a particular individual based on the requirement. So in this whole topic, we would be dealing with certain terminology like genetics, genomics, nutrigenetics, and nutrigenomics. So we all know that we all are aware of this term genetics, right? So genetics is the mechanism for inheriting a specific trait. We all are aware of this term genetics, isn't it? So basically, these genetics are the scientific studies of genes, heredity, and variation in living organism. Even it also explore, means genetics also explore that how genetic information carried by DNA is passed from parents to offspring, right? Like how the color of eyes, like offspring eyes, are somehow they are identical to their parent eye color, height, color. Okay, so these are the genetic information that has been carried from parent to the offspring. Like how a child have the skin color, eye color, texture of the hair, So these are certain traits that is being passed. Now comes the genomics. So genomics is the study of an organism entire genome, like encompassing all its DNA, including genes and their interaction between them and their environment, right? So which genes and proteins are activated under certain conditions. Now comes the main thing, that is nutrigenetics. Here we are talking about nutrigenomics, but let us also understand, because in the later part of the lecture we will be dealing with the differences between the nutrigenomics and nutrigenetics. So let us understand what are nutrigenetics. So nutrigenetics, it affects the gene variation on nutrient influence on health and diseases of an individual, right? So nutrigenetics, it studies how an individual's genetic makeup influences their response to a specific dietary nutrients and components, explaining why people react differently to the same food. Some people like can tolerate, you can say, lactose, milk based product, but some individual don't cannot have or cannot intake milk product. Why? Because they are lactose intolerance. Some people like plant based food, some people don't like plant based food, right? So there is a variation between the individuals, and these so it is important to understand that why these variations are there. So in this particular topic we will be talking about that only. So here one term is there, that is lactose intolerance. So people who are lactose intolerant, they are unable to digest the natural sugar that is present in milk and other fresh dairy product. So these genes responsible for making necessary enzyme like lactose, which is switched off, leaving their bodies unable to produce it. This is the case with the person who has lactose intolerance, means they cannot tolerate the lactose. They are the people who cannot digest milk and milk based product. These people react very differently with the food product that has milk in it. Okay, so these people react very badly to consuming a dairy product, and sometimes they suffer from these certain side effects such as abdominal pain, bloating, diarrhea and nausea. Okay, so let us understand that why does nutrigenomics tell what, no, not why, what does nutrigenomics tell? And before going into detail, let us understand very quickly that why it is important. Okay, so the first one is personalized nutrition, because of this. Second is for the disease prevention, and the last one is the health optimization. For personalized nutrition, as in the introduction part already have told you, that they moves beyond one size fit for all diet by tailoring the nutrient to genetic profile. Okay, depending upon the genetic profile of an individual, depending upon which disease an individual is suffering from, what is the requirement, how much nutrient is required, which nutrient is required, so it personalized the diet. Then second is your disease prevention. It helps to identify the dietary strategies in terms like it reduces the risk of chronic diseases like diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular diseases and cancer. It optimizes the health in the sense it support better metabolic functions like immune response and overall wellness. So this is the reason why it is important. Okay, so again coming back to the heading, that what does nutrigenomics tell us? So the overall goal, if we talk about the goal of nutrigenomics, so the overall goal of the nutrigenomics is to be developed an individual nutrition plan to help to achieve and to maintain the best health possible. First thing. Second is, when applied correctly, information that is related to nutrigenomics or nutrigenetics, it can even help to prevent or treat certain types of diseases. So these are very important. If in interviews or if in examination they ask you why nutrigenomics is important for our body, or for the humans, or what does actually nutrigenomics tells you, then in simple language you may tell that the overall goal of nutrigenomics is to develop an individual nutrition plan just to help to achieve or maintain best health possible. Second is, when applied correct information, means when you give a correct information related to nutrigenetics or nutrigenomics, they can even help a person to prevent certain kinds of diseases, certain types of diseases. Okay, now let us understand the scope of nutrigenomics. I think we have just covered this. Personalized nutrition like tailors the dietary recommendation based on individual genetic profile. It also helps in optimizes the nutrient intake, metabolism and absorption. Then it also reduces the trial and error in the diet planning, especially for the chronic diseases. So see, if I told you in a very simple language, so if a person is having a correct diet form, right, diet plan, sorry, depending upon its body requirement of the body, depending upon the type of disease he or she is suffering from, so correct diet plan helps in treating various chronic diseases apart from the medicines. Disease prevention and management. So these nutrigenomics, they identify the genetic predispositions to diseases like obesity, like diabetes, cardiovascular disorder and cancer. So as a human being, we all know that if we eat right, we can prevent certain to up to a certain extent a kind of a diseases. So eating right is the key to be healthy. It also enables early dietary interventions to modulate the gene expression and reduces the risk. It also supports the therapeutic nutrition strategies for managing existing the conditions. Now comes the functional foods and nutraceuticals. So it also develops the targeted food products that interact with the specific genes to promote health. So there is a separate video on functional food, so you may opt to that video for the better understanding that how functional foods promote the health and how they helps to fight against certain types of diseases. Functional food also, it enhances the efficacy of bioactive compound based on genetic compatibility. Now the last one is public health and policy. It informs population level dietary guidelines based on the genetic diversity, addressing nutrition related non-communicable diseases through genomics informed strategies. It also encourages the sustainability dietary changes with long-term health benefit. Okay, so in this thing, let us understand how the nutrigenomics, they help for disease prevention, means how the nutrient regulates the genes. Okay, so let us take an example to understand that how nutrients, they regulates the genes. For example, nutrient is folic acid. So where it get impacted, the gene impact is DNA methylation, related disease is cancer, right? Similar cases with the nutrient like vitamin D. What is their gene impact? mRNA. And vitamin D, what is the related diseases? Kidney diseases, right? So these are certain nutrients, how they get regulated with the genes. Again, fatty acid. Fatty acid, the gene impact is I think it's a bind transcription transcription, right? Transcription factors bind to the transcription factors, and the disease is obesity. Okay, so this is how the nutrients they regulates the gene. Nutrigenomics for the disease preventions, like nutrigenomics studies how nutrients and bioactive compound they influence the gene expression, and how the genetic variation affect individuals response to diet. So there is a dual insight that allows for the personal dietary strategies, and that can prevent or delay the onset of chronic diseases like cancer. Now comes the important thing, that targeted diseases area. Already I have just told about these diseases, like first is the obesity. So the nutrigenomics insight is variant in FTO, MCR4R genes. These are the genes FTO and MC4R genes affect the fat metabolism, right? What is the dietary strategy? They adjust the fat intake, increases the fibers, personalize the calorie target. Okay, so how these nutrigenomics they are related to treating obesity? So due to the genetic variation among individual, each person respond to diet differently. Already told you about this. So, by exploring the interaction between dietary patterns and genetic factors, nutrigenomics aims to suggest prevention measures and for treatment to obesity via personal nutrition. Okay, now the type 2 diabetes. So, what are the gene influences? TCF7L2 genes influences insulin sensitivity. So what are the strategies? So they lower the glycemic index diet, omega 3s, chromium rich food, cardiovascular diseases, APOE and MTHRF genes impact the lipid metabolism and hemocytosine levels. That is, what are the dietary strategies? Omega 3s, folate, B vitamins, and plant sterols. Now comes to cancer. So nutrients like sulforaphane and curcumin modulates the tumor suppressor gene. What is the dietary strategies? They includes the antioxidant rich diets, cruciferous vegetables, polyphenols. Then, like inflammatory disorders like TNF alpha and IL-6 genes variant linked to the chronic inflammation, they helps in making the strategies like anti-inflammatory diets, turmeric, omega 3s, and flavonoids. So in short, if I tell you that all these diseases, how nutrigenomics they are preventing and curing diseases by making a diet plans depending upon the type of diseases. And what are their goal? Their aim, or you can say the goal, is to suggest prevention measure or treatment of certain diseases by making a personal nutrition. So one diseases that is very sorry, not diseases. So these diet, how the diet they interact with the diseases, or diet they that is how they helps in coping up with the certain types of diseases. So as we all know that about 97% of the genes have known to be associated with human disease result in monogenic diseases by modifying the dietary intake and can prevent some monogenetic diseases. In this way, they helps a person to cope up with certain types of diseases. Now moving to the now comes public health and future direction. So nutrigenomics shifts the paradigm from disease management to health optimization. Like how? So depending upon the three factors: preventive health care, ethical consideration, and the global collaboration. So, see, we all are aware that nutrigenomics is a public health approach, and that investigate how nutrients and the dietary components interact with the individual's gene to influence the health and disease risk, like moving beyond a general dietary recommendation to provide personalized nutrition. We all know this. So, by understanding the nutrient interaction through advanced genomics and metabolic tools, nutrigenomics can help to identify the population subgroup at higher risk for the nutrient related conditions, right? Reveals the biomarkers for the malnutrition or diseases and informs the development of personalized dietary strategies to prevent the chronic diseases and promote overall well-being. As already told you in the previous that how a certain disease, like for certain diseases, how they make a personalized diet plans, what are the strategies that they have, that is known as dietary strategies, right? So in this way, like how nutrigenome actually work for public health and for the future directions. So the first one is that how a gene and nutrients they interact. Like nutrigenomics studies how nutrients affect the gene expression and how genetic variation, that is known as polymorphism, impact the body's response to specific nutrient. Okay, now the data integration. So the data integration means this is the field that integrate the large databases from these omic approaches to create a comprehensive view on the gene environment and diet interaction that we will be understanding in the next lecture. Now applications, that is on public health. So again, personalized nutrition, certain disease prevention, even it helps to identify how a specific dietary factor interact with a gene to increase or decreases the risk of the chronic diseases like diabetes, like cancer, like certain types of cardiovascular diseases, right? It also helps to understand population specific differences in nutrient metabolism and disease susceptibility, which can inform public health and policies intervention, like early identification of at-risk individual through genetic profile. See, if a person is having a certain kind of diseases, so early detection can help up to cope up with the diseases, like with the cancer. Cancer is such a chronic diseases that hardly a person can survive. Okay, but if a cancer is identified, और अगर हमें कैंसर का फर्स्ट स्टेज पता चल जाए, so it becomes very easy or to cope up with cancer. Okay, there are medicines, there are medicals, means you know the जहाँ पर हम कैंसर को treat कर सकते हैं. But the thing is, if the cancer is identified at the stage 1, but again if it is not in the case, like अगर कैंसर को फर्स्ट स्टेज में आइडेंटिफाई ना हो करके फोर्थ या थर्ड, so it becomes quite difficult to cope up with cancer. Okay, so early identification of any diseases, not only cancer, of diabetes, of cardiovascular, is very important, and you can manage these kind of diseases. Now ethical consideration, like addressing the privacy, data security, and genetic discrimination. global collaboration like multidisciplinary effect among nutrigenists, genetists, and clinicians can key to translating research into practices. Now comes what is the here I have used one term, that is ethical and consideration. So as the science progresses, like, so we all know, this world is evolving. Every day is a new day. Everything is now technology based. So as the science progresses, as the science evolves, sorry, there will be a greater need to address the practical implementations and ethical implication of personalized dietary advice within a healthcare framework. It is again very important to understand how. See, any diseases, okay, if we talk about any diseases, so it is again very important to have the ethical consideration, like dealing with the privacy of the diseases, right? How the disease has been how to you know make a privacy, okay. So in this manner, it is an important that the accuracy and the direct to consumer test potential harm from false claims, and unproven supplements, and the need for the professional trainings and counseling to ensure the appropriate interpretation and use of the result. So in this case, ethical consideration is very important because it deals with the consent and data privacy for the potential for the discrimination based on the genetic information. In this way, it is an important. Now comes the global collaboration. Why global collaboration is important in these disease in nutrigenomics? Why it is important? So these global collaboration, it is a very crucial for advancing the science of gene nutrients interaction and translating the discoveries into personalized health strategies worldwide. So it enables the researchers to overcome the challenges related to the data complexity, because this is an a hinder in making the whole profile. So it is very important for the researchers to overcome with the challenges, because this is the challenge that they may face, right? What challenges? Data complexity, diverse population, ethical concern, and accelerating the potential for nutrients to improve the global health. So again, what are the it is important to have a global collaboration, and what are the areas of collaboration? The first one is your establishing the international data standard and database, because every country has different their standards, right? So establishing a international data standard and database. Now in this also conducting a multi-ethical population studies, forming a multidisciplinary research alliance, developing and sharing advanced technologies, integrating public health and personalized nutrition. So all these are important, and challenges are always there for every study. So challenges that requires in the global solution is complexity and data integration. So I think in the next lecture we will be dealing or studying a vast on this omic or different types of database. So that brings to the end of the lecture. I hope you have understood the lecture. If you have any doubt, any query, you can simply leave your queries in the comment section below. This is our website, that is www.itlsacademy.com. This is our helpline, that is 7080833450. You can simply call on this number and get updated. Follow ITLS Academy on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, WhatsApp, LinkedIn. And yes, don't forget to press the bell icon to get more update. Subscribe ITLS Academy. Thank you.